Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in freshman English, and we now turn in your hymnals to page 1107. We are in the Odyssey, and the heading here is Odysseus' Revenge. Let's put this in our notes before we go to the reading. There has always been a lot of debate since the very beginning of this poem whether Odysseus is right or wrong for the kind of revenge that he gets. He has the ability, for example, to kill a couple of the bad guys and say, let that be a lesson to you. I need you to leave and go now. But he doesn't. What Odysseus does for his revenge, along with Telemachus, his boy, is total slaughter. Number 2, Odysseus has set this up so that Penelope is upstairs in her bedroom, and Athena has put her to sleep. So throughout this entire fiasco, where there is tremendous amounts of slaughter, I mean, you can see the picture on 1106, can't you? Right? When there's screaming and slaughtering going on, Penelope doesn't hear any of it. Okay? And so Odysseus and his boy are going to take care of the business. Number 3, think about what this is for Telemachus. The moment of arriving at his manhood. In Greek mythology, a young boy will come to manhood with certain rites of passage. His first kill, for example, when he goes hunting. And now for Telemachus here, obviously, the revenge that is a necessary part. Let's read it now together, and you'll make your own decisions about whether you agree or disagree with the way Odysseus handles his revenge.
Odysseus's Revenge. Now, shrugging off his rags, the wiliest fighter of the islands leapt and stood on the broad door-sill, his own bow in his hand. He poured out at his feet a rain of arrows from the quiver and spoke to the crowd. So much for that. Your clean-cut game is over. Now watch me hit a target that no man has hit before if I can make this shot. Help me, Apollo. He drew to his fist the cruel head of an arrow for Antinous, just as the young man leaned to lift his beautiful drinking cup, embossed, two-handled, golden. The cup was in his fingers. The wine was even at his lips. And did he dream of death? How could he? In that revelry amid his throng of friends, who would imagine a single foe, though a strong foe indeed, could dare to bring death's pain on him and darkness on his eyes? Odysseus's arrow hit him under the chin and punched up to the feathers through his throat. Backward and down he went, letting the wine cup fall from his shocked hand. Like pipes, his nostrils jetted crimson runnels, a river of mortal red. And one last kick upset his table, knocking the bread and meat to soak in dusty blood. Now, as they craned to see their champion where he lay, the suitors jostled in uproar down the hall, everyone on his feet. Wildly they turned and scanned the walls in the long room for arms, but not a shield, not a good ashen spear was there for a man to take and throw. All they could do was yell in outrage at Odysseus, "Foul, to shoot at a man, that was your last shot. Your own throat will be slit for this. Our finest lad is down. You killed the best on Ithaca. Buzzards will tear your eyes out."
1108.
For they imagined, as they wished, that it was a wild shot, an unintended killing. Fools, not to comprehend they were already in the grip of death. But glaring under his brows, Odysseus answered, "You yellow dogs, you thought I'd never make it home from the land of Troy. You took my house to plunder. You dared bid for my wife while I was still alive. Contempt was all you had for the gods who rule wide heaven, contempt for what men say of you hereafter. Your last hour has come. You die in blood." As they all took this in, sickly green fear pulled at their entrails, and their eyes flickered, looking for some hatch or hideaway from death. Eurymachus alone could speak. He said, "If you are Odysseus of Ithaca, come back. All that you say these men have done is true. Rash actions many here, more in the countryside. But here he lies, the man who caused them all. Antinous was the ringleader. He whipped us on to do these things. cared less for a marriage than for the power Cronion has denied him as king of Ithaca. For that, he tried to trap your son and would have killed him. He is dead now, and has his portion. Spare your own people. As for ourselves, we'll make restitution of wine and meat consumed, and add each one a tithe of 20 oxen, with gifts of bronze and gold to warm your heart. Meanwhile, we cannot blame you for your anger. Odysseus glowered under his black brows and said, Not for the whole treasure of your fathers, all you enjoy, lands, flocks, or any gold put up by others, would I hold my hand. There will be killing till the score is paid. You forced yourselves upon this house. Fight your way out, or run for it if you think you'll escape death. I doubt one man of you skins by. They felt their knees
1109.
and their hearts, but heard Eurymachus for the last time rallying them. Friends, he said, the man is implacable. Now that he's got his hands on bow and quiver, he'll shoot from the big doorstone there until he kills us to the last man. Fight, I say. Let's remember the joy of it. Swords out. Hold up your tables to deflect his arrows. After me, everyone. Rush him where he stands. If we can budge him from the door, if we can pass into the town, we'll call out men to chase him. This fellow with his bow will shoot no more. He drew his own sword as he spoke, a broadsword of fine bronze, honed like a razor on either edge. Then, crying hoarse and loud, he hurled himself at Odysseus. But the kingly man let fly an arrow at that instant, and the quivering feathered butt sprang to the nipple of his breast as the barb stuck in his liver. The bright broadsword clanged down. He lurched and fell aside, pitching across his table. His cup, his bread and meat were spilt and scattered far and wide, and his head slammed on the ground. Revulsion, anguish in his heart, with both feet kicking out, he downed his chair, while the shrouding wave of mist closed on his eyes. Amphinomus now came running at Odysseus, broadsword naked in his hand. He thought to make the great soldier give way at the door. But with a spear throw from behind, Telemachus hit him between the shoulders, and the lance head drove clear through his chest. He left his feet and fell forward, thudding, forehead against the ground. Telemachus swerved around him, leaving the long dark spear planted in Amphinomus. If he paused to yank it out, someone might jump him from behind or cut him down with the sword at the moment he bent over. So he ran from the tables to his father's side, and halted, panting, saying, Father, let me bring you a shield and spear, a pair of spears, a helmet. I can arm on the run myself. I'll give outfits to Eumaeus and this cowherd. Better to have equipment. Said Odysseus, Run then, while I hold them off with arrows as long as the arrows last. When all are gone, if I'm alone, they can dislodge me. Quick upon his father's word, Telemachus ran to the room where spears and armor lay. He caught up 4 light shields, 4 pairs of spears, 4 helms of war high-plumed with flowing manes, and ran back, loaded down, to his father's side. He was the first to pull a helmet on and slide his bare arm in a buckler strap. The servants armed themselves, and all 3 took their stand beside the master of battle. While he had arrows, he aimed and shot, and every shot brought down one of his huddling enemies. But when all barbs had flown from the bowman's fist, he leaned his bow in the bright entryway beside the door, and armed. A 4-ply shield hard on his shoulder, and a crested helm, horse-tailed, nodding stormy upon his head. Then took his tough and bronze-shod spears. Aided by Athena, Odysseus, Telemachus, Eumaeus, and another faithful herdsman kill all the suitors. And Odysseus looked around him, narrow-eyed, for any others who had lain hidden while death's black fury passed. In blood and dust, he saw that crowd all fallen, many and many slain. Think of a catch that fishermen haul into a half-moon bay in a fine meshed net from the whitecaps of the sea. How all are poured out on the sand in throes for the salt sea, twitching their cold lives away in Helios's fiery air. So lay the suitors, heaped on one another.
All right, let's now do a real quick annotation of this passage. Like I said, there's always been debate about whether this is a legitimate form of revenge or not. Let's do some quick level 1 work just to make sure that we're together on page 1107. Odysseus is going to speak. He will call for Apollo, and he will make sure that Antonius will be the first one that he kills, because Antonius is the chief among the bad guys. Notice the description. He will shoot Antonius. He has no idea he's about to get jacked, and he tumbles backwards. The food and the drink will hit the floor, symbolically meaning they're not going to eat anymore. And they, of course, eating and drinking has been a symbol here of partying and that kind of thing. And he is jacked. By the way, this thing about the arrow into the neck or the entrails or even past the nipple into the bowels and all that kind of stuff, that's pure Homer. When you read the Iliad, over and over again, the description of what blade or arrowhead can do to a person's body is described in really graphic detail. They're just going to give you a little taste of it here. Notice that, again, they start looking for arms. They've got no arms. Over on to page 1108, Odysseus will say it, right? That you are dogs, he says, right? Eurymachus then is going to blame Antinous and say, it's not us, it was him. Spare us, we will pay you back for everything. Which seems a fair request, right? Odysseus is having none of it, right? And in the end, Eurymachus will then try to fight, and it will all be useless, right? The food will fall, and then ultimately, all of them are going to be killed. Telemachus, of course, standing by his father. Telemachus going and getting the armor. Odysseus arming and then killing every one of them. And then at the very end of this reading, notice you've got the catch. The word picture of when you go fishing and with a net, you catch a bunch of fish. That's what it looks like. At 2:8, let's go to work. Obviously, this is the passage that suggests that not only is revenge, but it needs to be complete and it needs to be sweet. This is one of the major messages, obviously. So the Odyssey ends with a very violent scene. Another major message, obviously, is that when people do bad things, there are repercussions for their actions. And in this case, it is total annihilation, right? They have been stealing from Odysseus and putting Penelope in a bad situation, along with Telemachus, for a long time. At 2b, well, the symbol of all symbols here, well, you jot down which one works for you. A lot of scholars have pointed out that when you look at this passage, the primary symbol is, of course, that food that spills to the floor. It's a symbol of what? Not going to be any more eating and drinking anymore. No more partying. The suggestion here is as well, these guys have been doing lots and lots of partying. They haven't been doing any proper work or training, and so they're easy to be caught. The fish, obviously, is the other symbol, easy at the end of the reading. The irony, of course, is that Odysseus is not known until after he kills Antinous. And then they're like, oh, he must have accidental, lucky shot. Odysseus is like, no. Also, notice that he lost his dog Argos, and he calls them all dogs. Right? Homer, not without a sense of irony and humor himself, right? Okay? In other words, he's going to kill every last one of them. At 3a, obviously, what are the texts that you know of where this kind of fighting happens? I mean, if I got gamers in the house, then you obviously know about this as well. That just gratuitous, you know how somebody say it's just gratuitous violence in gaming where lots and lots and lots of people die? Gamers didn't invent that. It actually comes from this scene. Because there's a whole lot of this scene that's not provided to you as freshmen, which as seniors you'll read and you'll go, man, it just goes on and on for line after line after line, how much slaughter takes place here, where they're just laying on top of each other, there's so many dead, right? Finally, at 3b, well, here's the question. Is it fair? Do you think Odysseus went too far? Do you think Odysseus should have, for example, let them go? Why do you think he didn't let them go? Some students will say he didn't let them go because he knows what they're like. And they're only going to get together and come back and cause him all kinds of grief. And so he had to get rid of them. Is that the right way to deal with it? And, of course, a time when you got revenge or a time when somebody got revenge on you. What are your thoughts about revenge? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? The only thing remaining, of course, is now, after the hall has been cleared and purged, Odysseus and his girl Penelope. Thank you.